Is Halo back? Halo Studios, formerly 343 Industries, is coming to the Unreal Engine. Are we excited about that? Is this whole rebrand just a rebrand in name only? Are they keeping some of the elements from Halo that we are disinterested in? Let's talk about it. This is Arcade Island. My name is Atlas. This is Cash. And we also have the Marksman's Crusader. Fellas, introduce yourselves. Cash, what's going on this week?
All right, so we're talking about both Halo Industries, Halo Studios, which has been rebranded from 343 Industries, so that's some pretty big news. And on top of that, we're also going to be hitting those topics of Sparking Zeroes just dropped, right?
So we're definitely excited about that.
Game. Yeah.
Definitely excited about Sparking Zero. Man, Marksman Crusader, the Dragon Ball Z guy.
I wouldn't call myself a Dragon Ball Z guy, but Sparking Zeroes, it's great. I love it.
Okay, well, we're going to be talking about that. So let's go ahead and start off with the king of gaming, Halo. Halo is one of the legacy brands. Halo, the original Halo Combat Evolved first-person shooting. Really, I think if you go back to GoldenEye, that was one of the brands that really kind of pushed shooting into, I guess, the zeitgeist of like consoles.
Yeah, console gaming, right?
Combat Evolved really like took us to another level when it comes to graphics, when it comes to interactability, vehicles in games.
Oh, absolutely.
Did we have vehicles in games before?
To my knowledge, it's kind of hard to say per se, but I do recall that a big concern for people was Quake used to be one of the big like FPS on specifically PC platforms. So the transition to essentially allowing Quake to be playable on console was pretty much unheard of at that point because people were too concerned about, your movement speed is going to be too slow. You're going to be taking too long to turn around or whatever. The controls are just not going to be intuitive. But somehow back in the day, Bungie, which was formerly working with Microsoft, they figured out how to essentially take that PC experience, but distill it specifically for the consoles as a whole. So I think that was a very important step for them to have taken, and they've surely succeeded because, even like years later, you had so many games trying to essentially capture what made Halo so special.
Right.
And some have, to a degree, succeeded, but ultimately I think no game has truly fully captured what it meant to play as Halo itself, aside from maybe Destiny, but even then Destiny, it feels like its own unique game.
I was in 3rd or 4th grade when Halo 2 came out, and some of the kids in my class were like, hey, I just went home. My guy Tyler, he was like, dude, I just played Halo 2. You can dual wield. They got these, and he brought like the booklet with all like the different guns, and he was like showing me everything, and I was just like, wow, this is so cool. I want to play Halo. Like, you can do all these things in one game. You can go play Capture the Flag. There's swords in a game.
Yeah,
like
energy
what?
Swords.
Like, cool. I didn't understand, like, it was an energy sword. I thought it was like a regular sword.
You thought it was like a regular sword?
Yeah. But the point is, Halo touched so many people's lives in really positive ways. Mm-hmm. But more recently, with the transition of Bungie going off and making Destiny being independent and selling out to Sony, now I think they're maybe independent again, or are they still with Sony?
I think they're still with Sony.
I'm pretty sure they're still with Sony.
But they're kind of on a decline. They just fired a bunch of people.
Right. They're in a very rough situation at the moment. Honestly, they're probably going to be fine, but specifically when it comes to their new IP, which is Marathon, which isn't really a new IP if anyone's ever been familiar with Bungie titles in the past. Mm-hmm. Marathon was one of their much older games that they have sort of referenced in Halo. This version of Marathon seems to be a complete like revamp, more in a line of like those multiplayer shooters, which kind of leads us to believe, is this just going to be the Concord Tax 2.0 or 3.0 at this point?
Just more ways to sell a system. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but taking old titles, trying to freshen them up a little bit just to make a few bucks off gamers. But kind of going back to what Halo is doing, some people are excited about it, and some people are maybe not so excited about it. They're just like, okay, they're trying something new. Is the team at 343 Industries. They were basically the Microsoft team that was built up to take over Halo.
Right. I mean, the name 343 is a direct reference to 343 Guilty Spark, a very iconic character in Halo Combat Evolved.
Right.
In later titles as well. But
Exactly. And they're moving away from that name, almost trying to distance themselves from some of the baggage that they created themselves with Halo 4, 5, and Infinite, where the games released undone or there were features or
I mean, we can also
concepts that
throw
weren't
in
good.
Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition, which was
Oh,
their
yeah.
first attempt
I
at,
think that was kind of the
Right,
big
right.
deal.
Ooh, yeah.
as well as Halo, the Master Chief Collection, when it first launched. Because over time, it's now become a very solid legacy collection for any just video game collection, period.
Sure. But when it first came out, it really kind of upset a lot of, I guess, hardcore like Halo gamers.
Right.
Now, if you didn't care about Halo, you didn't care. But what is it that you were seeing online or even in your own experience with the game that you were just like, oh, that's not quite it with Halo Combat Evolved Remastered?
So with the Halo Combat Evolved, are we speaking about specifically the 343 Industries version?
Yeah, 343
Okay,
Industries
okay.
with,
So,
with
yeah.
the I guess the Master Chief Collection rather.
Sure. If we're talking about that one specifically, its largest issue was the fact that they were saying it's essentially like a remaster at that point, but they completely diverted away from the original art style. So that in itself isn't really a big deal until you start to factor in why that original art style was so important, because it led to certain corridors being dark for a reason, the atmosphere looking a certain way. But then when you change those things entirely, when you choose to adopt a different art style altogether, it can drastically change the mood and the atmosphere and the feeling of Halo Combat Evolved. And I don't know if you guys recall, but the Flood is a very big deal in Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and Halo 3, right? So throughout all those games, especially with Halo like Combat Evolved, it was the first title that really pushed that ideal of like something isn't right, something is just off about this environment. And then when the Flood come in, you're like, oh snap, what is this? This is terrifying. Like these aren't just like your regular zombies. There's so much more than that.
Yeah, so it sounds like what you said is pretty much accurate based on what I've been hearing, where it was the game, but there were core elements missing, and that just kind of hurt. Did you hear anything similar just on your side of the world? I know you're more of a PlayStation guy.
I mean, for the most part, when it comes to Halo, at least when they had their whole remastered and recollections and stuff like that, at least in the beginning, there was like all those issues that they were having previously.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I'm not like, I love Halo. Don't get me wrong. I love Master Chief.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't, right? Although I grew up on the PlayStation, so I didn't get the chance to really, have that experience.
You saying Killzone's your goat?
Killzone is where I was at that point.
Killzone 2 was amazing.
Killzone 2 was great.
I'll give you
loved
that.
it. I loved it. It was great, So, unfortunately, at least now that I've recently, had a PC and a little bit of other extra stuff, I was able to like play a little bit of the new Halo titles or the recent Halo titles, the Infinite and all that stuff, which for me, a first time like really Halo Infinite guy, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So
Yeah, I suppose if Halo Infinite's your first title, you might feel a little bit lost.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting because it's like, man, you go back and you play the Master Chief Collection, and it's like, okay, like, where are we going? What are we doing? Like, where do you jump in? Is there a title that's best to jump in at? I think Halo 2 is a great title to jump in at if you had to jump in anywhere.
I wish I had
Honestly,
the chance, honestly.
I would agree with that. I think Reach is a little bit too, how do I say this?
Overrated.
No. Hold on. Slow your roll.
I'm kidding.
No. I love Reach. I just don't think it's like the best place to like really start off playing. Like, sure, yes, chronologically it makes sense to start off with Reach, then start off with Halo Combat Evolved, because that is the order that events pretty much take place. Like the fall of Reach is essentially what kicked off the whole human Covenant war in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I suppose that could make sense. Although I would say maybe if you're going to go to Reach, maybe start at 1, then go to Reach.
Yes, I would agree with that take more so, because that way you get used to. Because one thing you have to keep in mind is that Bungie, they ended up making this title as their final title after Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST, right? Before they left out. So that means they included a lot of mechanics and stuff that were just not present in original Combat Evolved. So in my opinion, it makes more sense to play through the games as the mechanics were intended and pretty much shown off to them.
Like the evolution.
Yeah, the evolution. So that way it doesn't feel as like drastic because you're essentially jumping from Halo 1's sort of like slower pace gameplay, less emphasis on the rechargeable health, but more so like you have to pick up these health packets. Less emphasis on like dual wielding or, I guess abilities, more so on like, hey, you have your camo, which is like, a pickupable item that just activates immediately. Same with your overshields, which just essentially gives you like double health, more or less, right? But with Reach, you have all these other abilities, like you have armor lock, you have jetpacks,
right?
You can
sprint.
Just
hit the button to activate it.
Yeah,
it's almost. I think that might be not overwhelming because people have all sorts of games that they can play that have features kind of like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you might go back and play the other titles and then feel like, oh, this is less good because it doesn't have some of those quality of life features built in.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
No, absolutely. So, like, honestly, if I were to, like, really recommend the order that someone should play it, I honestly think you should just start off with either 1 or 2, like Combat Evolved or Halo 2. Especially the anniversary of Halo 2 it's absolutely amazing because they just went in and they redone all of, like, the cutscenes as well as they revamped the visuals so it looks like a more modern title. But it still plays mechanically like Halo 2, which is perfect, like, which is exactly what you want from, I guess, a true remaster is that you want to typically preserve the mechanics that were present. Now, I can understand if certain mechanics are just too outdated. Sure, maybe it makes more sense to try to go in a different way. It's kind of like, I would say, Resident Evil 1 and 2, because like those tank controls, good Lord.
Yeah.
But I would say like Halo is one of the few titles where it makes sense to mechanically not be sprinting all the time. Although, like, the whole sprint argument versus not sprinting thing is a little bit contentious. But, a lot of those, like, pretty much the staple Halo gameplay has been present since Halo 1, and it's not that hard to pick up on that if you jump into the newer titles. Let me just put it this way. If you play any other, like, Halo title the way you play Halo 1, you'll probably be fine. If you play Halo 1 like you play any other Halo title, you're going to have problems.
Fair. Now, one thing that I guess I do want to talk about is going from Halo or 343 Industries to Halo Studios. I guess if you watch the video, because they had a whole announcement video, it seemed like they were shifting gears, like changing ideologies or changing philosophies on how we're going to make the game, saying, well, we've been working so hard trying to build the Slip Space engine, which is I guess it's like a retrofitted or ground up built engine that they use.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's I don't remember the exact name of the previous engine, but basically it was a more soup to nuts version of that engine.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of the same issues, if not more issues, because of the fact that they had to essentially build on a sort of a rocky framework, so to speak. That's not to say it's like completely garbage. Like, I guess, for instance, sorry, Todd Howard, but the creation engine, please, for the love of God, just do away with it. Stop it. No one needs that anymore. I'm tired of seeing the Skyrim-looking characters, even in Starfield.
Yeah,
Starfield is a game that's 10
years.
10 years in the making. Why does it still look like it's somehow Skyrim, but like, I don't know, more that to me that just rubs me the wrong way. Like, sure, it's a little bit
Skyrim with better pixels.
Yeah, Skyrim with better pixels. Oh, but it's charming. No, it looks uncanny. It looks weird.
It's charming for Skyrim.
Yeah, it's charming for Skyrim.
Like, you tell me, hey, Skyrim is, that's how it looks, right? All the bugs in Skyrim, you look at them, you're like, you know what? It belongs to that era of gaming,
right?
And it's endearing. But it goes back to we have the technology. Why are we limiting ourselves when we know we could do better?
I've actually not played Skyrim, and I'm about to, because we have the Steam Deck now, and we can go play these cool titles that I missed growing up, because I didn't play everything growing up, right?
Right.
Like most people didn't play everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That said, people say, some of the campiness of Skyrim was kind of like the charm of it. It took itself seriously, but it was also kind of campy. But when you take games like that, which they looked a certain way, they played a certain way. People have replayed it 100 times on every single different console that's ever came out. They've remastered and rebuilt it a few different times, or not rebuilt it, but they just tuned it up a little bit.
Right. Re-release it with like new mods and the works.
The 50th re-release. Oh, and somehow with all the money they're making on Skyrim, they couldn't give us a better Starfield. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I mean that's a conversation for a whole nother day, but
right. I mean we're getting off topic, right? But for 343, do you guys think that the Unreal Engine, which is one of the best looking engines, when we talk about pure graphics, best looking engine, I think that
it's
exists.
up there. I would say it's up there with like the Frostbite engine, which is often used for I guess Battlefield games and stuff like that.
Pretty much.
Like maybe even Battlefront, I think.
Yes. So
Yes.
I believe they use the Frostbite engine for Battlefront,
Which Battlefront is one of the best looking games.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm not saying it plays the best or all the different stuff where it's totally a complete game, especially when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like if you talk about like photorealism, it looks real.
It's up
looks
there.
as real as it's gonna get.
It's definitely up there. I'm trying to remember what is it, like the Crysis engine or something like that?
CryEngine 3.
The CryEngine, the CryEngine.
That was really ahead of its time.
Yeah, that was definitely ahead of its time. I know that Kojima and his team, they made the Fox engine or whatever they called it.
The Fox engine.
Yeah, just they pushed it to its limits.
Yeah.
Because from what my understanding is that engine was not that good. Like it was pretty much like underwhelming, but somehow they managed to just deliver.
And I suppose that is the real question, right? Is do you guys think that them not having to fight with the engine, fight with Unreal, because it's more mainstream industry standard, people understand how to use it. If they have a trouble, they can go to Epic and say like, hey, we're having trouble with the engine. Can you guys help us? How do we get this done? They can actually accomplish what they want to accomplish. Focusing on the gameplay, which is king, focusing on the story, which is paramount. This is Halo, for God's sakes, it's Halo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they'll actually be able to do this, or are they so far gone up their own butts, smelling their own farts, as I like to say, that and some people have been accusing them of still being just a DEI mess, which I don't care. Just make good games. Make good games. Do you think this is actually a step in the right direction, or is it just a rebrand, just trying to milk Halo players a little bit more until they have to disband the team?
So if you would have asked me this question back when the old management team was still present, I would have said absolutely. It's just an attempt to sort of coat your wounds more or less and say, hey, guess what, guys? Even though I'm wearing a mustache now, I'm different, right? I'm different. No, you're still the same thing. You're just a wolf with a different pair of sheep's clothing on, so to speak, right?
Some other sheep's clothing.
Yeah, some other sheep's clothing. Like no one's going to take you seriously. But I think one of the reasons why people aren't taking them seriously now is just because they've been jaded by so many different mishaps on title releases. Now, I will give them this. I think Halo 4 is probably by far their best title, period. And I know people are going to argue with me, oh, the story wasn't that good. Oh, the multiplayer experience played like Call of Duty. Man, if we're just talking about a whole package release and stuff that made sense, Halo 4 story made sense. I was looking forward to it to see where it was going to go. It was different, but it made sense. It was coherent.
They pretty much abandoned it.
They pretty much abandoned it, which is one of my issues with 343's approach to a lot of things. But that's besides the point. But anyway, so they had a story that made sense, and it pretty much tied in the old era with the new the Reclaimer era that they call? Right. So I think that was a good transition. And on top of that, they adopted a new art style, which some people were complaining, like, oh, it's too sci-fi, it's too weird or whatever. In my opinion, it worked because it showed that, hey, we're a different team. We're about different, okay, we still care about what makes Halo, but we're just doing it in a way that makes sense for us, so to speak, right? Whatever, the direction that we believe it's going to be in. But even then,
you have to be able to do that.
Right.
If you say like in sports, right? If you have a sports team, the old coach gets fired, you get hired, you bring in your team of guys. You can't say, well, this is how it's always been done. Well, who cares? You're not that team.
Right.
You have to do things your way. You have to understand like the legacy of what people expect and the pedigree of like awesomeness you have to bring. Like, hey, it's Halo.
Right.
This is Halo.
Absolutely.
Don't make it not Halo.
Yeah, don't make it not Halo. Now, I will give people this about the multiplayer. Yes, they tried something new with the multiplayer, and it went in a direction they didn't really anticipate would hit home for people, because they fundamentally changed it because they're trying to keep up with the fact that Call of Duty was so popular at this point, and the gameplay for Call of Duty was just reigning supreme.
Right.
So they thought
the amount of sprinting and clamoring and aiming down sights.
Yeah, things like that.
You could actually, unless you had a sniper, you were not aiming down sights in Halo.
Right, exactly. There's no reason
Alternate
to.
fire functions.
Right. And all those functions sort of like went into Halo 5's multiplayer, which, in my opinion, I think they cooked with that.
Yeah, it was actually really good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Now, if they didn't call it Halo 5, it would have been perfect. But because it was Halo 5, it had its own issues, largely being the story.
Yeah.
And the art style was arguably worse than 4, way worse.
Do you? This is such a almost a side question, but do you think it would be a good idea for them to release like different multiplayer updates almost separately from the stories? Because if you say, okay, well, Halo Infinite, well, now you have Halo Infinite story, and then Halo Infinite, the multiplayer experience, which they're two fundamentally different things.
Honestly, like Call of Duty pretty much does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, and they seem to be doing well for themselves. As much as people try to hate Call of Duty, they're doing well for themselves, especially when it comes to separating the multiplayer experience versus their actual campaign experience. So, I mean, honestly, if they did it, they probably might be better off in the end.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because this past release, you could get Halo Infinite multiplayer for free or free to play, and with really no major restrictions, just like no cosmetics, right? You could earn certain stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like all the monetary stuff was just purely cosmetic, and sure, the battle pass is also cost money, but it like at the end of the day, you didn't have to buy it. You didn't have to buy it at all, because you could also just play the free battle pass, so to speak. That being said, I think it could work, but the issue is because of the way that Infinite was handled, I don't think they should do that, in my honest opinion. They should more so try to focus on trying to deliver on a solid plan that they can keep up with. Because, they released a roadmap, but they're only able to keep up with certain things, and they were held back severely because of the way that they were managed and because they're so behind on certain things. Like, for example, we were getting cutscenes specifically for multiplayer. We were having our own unique story for the multiplayer experience, which was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was nice. And I was curious to see where it was going to go, but they're like, hey, guys, sorry, but we have to axe it because we're trying to approach and improve the actual multiplayer content, which, it's fair. I understand it. However, I wish I can eat my cake.
Have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, exactly. Why'd you got to take away my cake, man? Like, come on, man. I was liking it. I liked it.
Yeah.
Bring it back, please.
No, I feel you.
Please.
No. It's hard because when you look at the development cycles of these games, and when you listen to interviews and whatnot, and you say, okay, yeah, we had a team focused on the multiplayer, we had a team focused on the story, and they would have to talk to each other, and then you're like, okay, the allocation of resources. I do still wonder. I know you shared your thoughts. If it would be better to have a team just focused on improving the multiplayer, letting that multiplayer thing be like a 10-year run. I don't know, and then saying, kind of like Warzone was for Call of Duty. Like, it's a separate experience. You can have one Warzone through 3 titles, and eventually they'll update to Warzone 2. But I don't know. Just some thoughts. All right. So did want to touch on this just briefly. There have been some people saying, hey, this Halo, it's kind of woke. Still woke. I don't know that I've ever felt like Halo was woke. Like, it's...
Like, okay, what do they mean by that?
Like, what does that even mean?
Because let me put this. Okay, look at it this way. All right, if we're claiming that specifically 343 Industries Halo games were woke, look at Bungie. There was a lot of female main characters. Yeah. Ever since Combat Evolved, we had like Sarah Palmer. Wait, no, actually,
I think that was
sorry,
343.
My fault. We had I'm blanking. Keys. We had Commander Keys, right? Completely a female character, in a military position of power, all that.
Right.
If you want an actual Spartan that was female,
Cortana was a main character.
There we go.
Literally
Cortana
telling
herself.
you what to do.
Yeah,
You have this
a woman
lady
is
in
telling
your
you what
head
to
telling
do.
you what to
Is that woke? Guys, is that controversial? Women telling you what to do? No.
I don't know. I never let a woman tell me what to do. Never let my wife see this.
No, but in all seriousness, I just think it's just one of those things where people are just so quick to try to blame wokeness as the only reason why games fail, when reality is wokeness isn't what kills a game. It's the decision to not put whatever gameplay first. It's a decision to not invest in like a compelling story. It's a decision to make really idiotic management decisions that hurts a game. Not because you want to include inclusivity and other things like that. Because I'll be honest with you, inclusivity isn't bad. It's not bad. Now, it's a problem if you just do it for the sake of doing it and you have no real reason to do it. Sure, I can agree with you on that. That being said, I'm not opposed to having inclusivity in my games at all, as long as the game at the end of the day still plays and handles well. Now, if it doesn't, I'm going to be mad at the games I'm playing and handling well. I'm not going to scream from the rooftops, oh, it's woke. It's woke.
But that is like one of the biggest problems is that like you could have that mindset of the game doesn't play well, and then you're called a bigot.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll give you that. So if the game doesn't play well and you're complaining the game doesn't play well because it doesn't play well, but you're still called a bigot, then the person who called you that is clearly an idiot and they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. They're not thinking about this like clearly. They're too invested.
Because I'm on your side. What are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
It's like
I want the game to succeed just as much as you do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? You're just as bad as people who are saying everything's woke.
And I'll say this, right? No matter what game you're playing, no matter what series it is, right? I don't care if you're gay, trans, whatever it is, right? Don't make that your personality as a character or about the game. Like if I'm saying I'm going in being what? A Spartan, right? To go and fight the Covenant, right?
Yeah.
And my character just so happens to be gay. That is not the personality, right? You are the Spartan. You are the guy running in, right?
Right.
Who just so happened to be gay.
Right.
Sure. That's literally what it is, right?
Yeah.
Your character, sexuality or sexual orientation it just so happened to be. But at the end of the day, the story that we're having is that's the main important part. Maybe he's stone cold as an individual, and at the end of the game, he has a heart full of puppies, right? But at least to say between that journey, we had a really good story that made sense, made me actually feel things. Because I've seen in a lot of games where that ends up not being the case, and we say, well, this person is, they're gay or they're trans or whatever, and then that is their entire personality. And then I sit there and I got to roll my eyes like, okay, but what about the story? Why is the gameplay either so simple or so mind-numbing? And I'm not really focused on this. I just want to play the game and have fun.
Right.
So there's two things that I want to talk about when it comes to games that include things that make you kind of roll your eyes. Number one would be the inclusion of what you might call fan service, Metal Gear Solid titles, and others. You have a woman who's conventionally attractive, add some extra points for this or that, and it's like, why was this included? Oh well, Kojima knows his audience. His audience is teenage boys. What you doing, dog?
Hey, I mean, okay. No, that's a good point because on one hand, why is it unacceptable to have, what you deem to be progressive diversity? But then if you turn around and you have a game that just features objectification of women or men on the regular, that's okay. But then you can't have people who happen to be gay or happen to be trans or happen to be, any other orientation, or they have certain religious beliefs or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
That's a bit odd to me because here's the thing. It's going to sound weird, but I'm here for both of it. I'm a big fan of the culture. The culture includes both aspects of it, okay? All right? That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. Well, and here's the thing. Like, people are going to probably hear me say that and be like, whoa, I'm not here to push anybody's agenda. I'm just here to ask questions.
Right. Absolutely.
If I'm playing a game and all of a sudden there's a character like Quiet from MGS5, I'm just like, this feels like a lot of extra. Why is? But
there has to be some kind of reason.
There needs to be some real story elements to help me to feel like that this isn't just gratuitous.
You know what? Okay, I'll give you a case in point. Have you guys heard of this little tiny series called Bayonetta?
Rebrand,
Yeah.
Boy. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So the main mechanic for her is that she uses her hair because she's a witch to basically manifest these umbral demons, which, it causes her to be temporarily naked or whatever between scenes and stuff. Like, yeah, it's very over the top,
That's
very
way over the
gratuitous,
top.
very cultured, right? However, there's a mechanical reason to why it exists or why it's a thing. And that it's also ties into the story as well. And I'm like, you know what? All right, you got me. Fine. Now, I guess with Halo, you can also talk about Cortana. It's like, wait a minute. Why is Cortana for like Halo 1 through 4? Why does she appear to be nude? Like, what was the purpose of that? You want to know what the purpose of that was? So Dr. Halsey, fun fact, she's not a good person. And she's never claimed to be a good person at all.
Yeah, she's always been kind of evil.
Yeah, she's been kind of evil. Like, objectively, she is not a good person at all. That being said, so specifically when it comes to John, she believes that John is her sort of pride and joy, so to speak,
Right.
and to sort of help him with stuff, she purposely made a version of herself that is incredibly younger and also very good looking, and just essentially made this her own unique AI based off her brain structure, which is Cortana. So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. In other words, Halsey may or may not have, Gruber allegations under her belt as well.
Yeah,
So
I mean, she knew John since he was a kid.
Yeah,
a kidnapped kid.
Yeah,
So.
she just casually commits a whole lot of egregious things, but that's besides the point.
That's all she knows how to do.
Anyways, the point is, on one hand, yeah, it is something that does appeal to quote unquote the male gaze, right? But on the other hand, there is a story reason for why that's a thing. Like, you guys may not think about it like that, but legitimately, that's one of the potential reasons for why it's like that.
There's lore reason.
There's a lore reason for it. I guess maybe another good example, if we're just steering off of video games temporarily, if we talk about something like Star Wars, for example, the prequel films, you notice how Amidala or Padme specifically dressed a certain way around Anakin. You're telling me that it was just Lucas just being like, I mean, knowing Lucas, yeah, I'm sure he was feeling a certain type of way.
I
right?
mean, if you watched episode 6,
Okay.
hard from the
Carrie
Beatles
Fisher,
allegations.
Carrie Fisher, and you can go check any interview. Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul, she will explain everything of why she was just the way she did and why she hated it every second of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But did it help the brand overall? I would argue yes. Is this something that I would want for my girls? No, I
That's
don't want
fair.
that for my
That
girls.
that's completely fair. That's not to say that I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you can tell it to me and you can give a reason for it being a thing, that's a lot easier for me to swallow. Now, that being said, I may not fully agree with it or whatever, or maybe I might not be fully on board with it, or maybe I might be somewhat on board with it. Regardless, if you give me a legitimate reason for why that's a thing, then usually it's a little bit easier.
Right.
Sometimes it's not, just because of how over the top and ridiculous it is. For example, I'm going to come at you anime fans, specifically the Xenoblade fans. Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Ooh.
For some reason, they put a lot of emphasis on the certain bits for two of the main characters, Pyra and Mithra, who are sentient blades that Rex, the main character, uses. That being said, there's a lot of emphasis on I guess objectification of them, which is really interesting, because on one hand it shows hey, they're seen as weapons. Maybe this is an allegory for the fact that they are weapons, so they're only seen with one purpose, and maybe over time you're going to see them in a different light because they both have their unique personality and aspects of themselves.
I'm sold.
Right.
I'm sold already.
Right. But in the same vein, it's kind of just jiggling around. So I'm
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. That one's a little hard to hard pill to swallow. You see what I mean? There's both
Yeah.
ways to look at
I think
it.
game designers are all down bad, and they need
absolutely.
they need help.
I mean,
therapy.
Larian Studios, you know who you are. I mean, I love D&D. I love Baldur's Gate 3, but good Lord, there is a lot of emphasis on just making everyone look super attractive, which I guess makes sense.
I mean, I suppose it beats the other trend of what people have said is hey, we're taking what has traditionally been an attractive character, or conventionally attractive, symmetrical face, feminine features, stuff like that, and then making them more tough, or making them more beat up or brutish or masculine, which some characters I've seen, yes, but it's not everyone.
I think honestly, I think it just depends. Like for instance, Last of Us 2, Abby, it makes perfect sense for her to be more aggressive, like I guess more masculine coded, so to speak, if you want to look at it that way, right? But I would say even Aloy, it technically sort of makes sense for her to be more have like a more masculine feature, so to speak, because she's living out in this world with like low tech. Oh, okay. Although there's high tech dinosaurs and stuff, they're very how do I say this? Like
They're primitive.
they're primitive, right? It makes sense to have more.
sun damage.
Yeah.
And
To me, it's weird that primitive people are super attractive. Now that being said, there are certain tribes that put more emphasis on makeup and stuff like that, which I think is cool. I think that's interesting.
I mean, if we go to the most remote region of, name anywhere that's remote. I'm not going to say Africa, right? Because there's other remote places. Let's say we're going to go to Australia, a remote tribe in Australia.
Sure. If you want
There are some tribes that just based on our European, Eurocentric standard beauty are still going to, I guess, check some boxes. And
Right.
This has gone like way off the rails, right? But I mean, I think everybody's got a different standard. And if you can tell a good story and make your characters not difficult to look at, I think you'll be okay. And if
Right.
they are difficult to look at, is there a real reason?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, are they Two-Face?
yeah. Are they Two-Face? I guess if you want to look at Marvel, Deadpool, for example.
Oh, so ugly.
He oh my, you look at that man and tell me that you would want to, I don't know, say, hey, I love you, and then plant a big fat kiss on his forehead.
I mean, apparently somebody does because he pulls a lot of he pulls the embodiment of death. I know what to tell you.
You know what? You know why? Because it's his personality. That's what matters.
And that's what matters.
It's got a banging
And
personality.
that goes back into like the whole thing of like, video game characters. If you're gonna present me a character that's supposed to be diverse for, whatever reason, which is fine, give them a personality that makes them interesting or gives them layers, right? Like,
Yeah.
because people have layers. People are not just one tone and usually one note. Like there has to be a reason for them to exist and operate the way they do. I think Hades, for example, is a games series now because it originally was just one game, but now there's two games, right? Where it sort of captures that sense of like, hey, we like to be diverse, we like to do interesting things, but at the same time, all of our characters are unique and they operate on a certain like just whatever their principles may be, right? I think that's cool. I think that's amazing. I'm trying to think of like other games that.
Well, I did want to, before we transition to Sparking Zero,
Sure, yeah.
discuss a game that when we talk about like a interesting diversity, is it woke or is it good storytelling? Is it bringing a perspective that listen, I played a lot of games growing up, right? And there's some titles you booted on, the cutscenes are starting to go, and I'm just like, skip. I don't care. I don't care about your story. It's not good. And there's nothing to make me pause and be like, okay, so what's going on here? What is this? I'll sit through it. Sucker Punch, I believe, made Infamous, or who made Infamous?
Yes, Sucker Punch.
Okay. So Sucker Punch made Infamous. Infamous 1 and 2, Cole, what's his last name?
McGrath.
Cole, I thought so. Interesting guy, interesting story, made in an era of gaming, PS3-ish era, where...
The gritty era.
Yeah.
The masculine era.
The masculine era. The color palettes were so flat,
Yeah.
generally.
It was like a piss-colored palette color.
It was either that or it was like always like, hey, let's take the brightness slider and just go.
No matter how much you try to up the brightness, I still can't see what's going on. I'm blind.
It's actually got me conditioned nowadays where if it's like, hey, so adjust the slider before you start the game so
Right.
you can not see this logo and you can barely see this logo. I'm like, let me get a few ticks higher because I know I'm going to be blind in this game.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude.
I'm going to be looking for something in the corner. I can't see it.
I feel like we're all guilty at some point for some games. Where like in the beginning when that just happened, we're just like, I want to see the logo always. So you just max the brightness and you're like, this is good. And then you just play the game the entire time. You never unadjust the settings.
Right, because they don't know what they're talking about. They don't have my consumer TV. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Before HDR was a thing, and even now, right? So my point is, we're bringing up Sucker Punch, is in the more recent title, was it Second Son? Which it's a different kind of game. They are on a reservation, the main character is a Native American. His brother's Native American, and you know they're living in Seattle. They're doing, or they go into Seattle and they do different stuff, and they talk about, hey, the tribe. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I don't feel like I'm being told like you need to feel bad for everything that's ever happened to Native Americans. Like I don't feel preached at with that game. But also I'm like, I kind of want to go back and see what's going on with the tribe. Like how does this tribe kind of work in the greater, world building? Like how do they feel? Do they feel differently about this character than they do about the what do they call the mutants in
Conduits?
the conduit? Do they feel different about the
right.
conduits or like how do they work in like the world geopolitics of this world? And so I was interested in that kind of diversity versus there's some other stuff that is just like shoehorned in, and you're like, oh, this is weird.
See, okay.
Well, I definitely want to hear what Marksman Crusader has to say. From a guy who's played that game, played the previous games. You've loved the first two. Did you feel weird going into the third one where you're moving away from the main character? I guess did he die?
Yeah, he died in the second
yeah.
game. So when it comes to Second Son, at least, I almost thought I wasn't going to like this game. I thought it was going to be like, oh, we got this new guy coming in and he's not going to be as great as Cole. And I was actually wrong. Like, Deslin is actually a really good character. And even though he's like the Native American, like, they don't make you, as you said, they don't make you just talk about like, oh, everything bad that has happened within the past, like, 400, 500, 600 years of Native American history that has been, oppressed or whatever. Like, they don't talk about that. They're just like, listen, right? Like, we all already know about those things, so we're going to talk about in the now that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. What are the problems that Deslin is going through as of now?
In this universe.
In this universe, right? Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, yes, there are things that have happened in the past, but there's currently a big project happening in the moment, and you need to be focusing on that. And, it almost makes you into that sense where, as you said, that they talk about the tribe and stuff like that, where for somebody who is like in that case of like, I am kind of like interested and I want to dive more deep into it, because you have those people. They're going to go and they're going to, let me learn more about this, right? Mm-hmm. And then that way you get more of an awareness when it comes to people of, different tribes. Like, you say, okay, you know what? Dustin was such a cool guy, and he's also Native American. I want to learn a little bit more about Native American history, right? And then you learn about stuff, right? Versus someone who's going to be like, Native Americans were oppressed, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of like, oh, well, I guess this is to make me feel like a terrible human being or something. Right. And then you don't want to vibe with it. You don't want to even touch it, And so for the most part, at least when you kind of look at these two different situations, I can end up looking at it and saying, yeah, no, this game passes the vibe check, Mm-hmm. I don't have to roll my eyes or skip, a cutscene because it's going to like, okay, they're just going to be talking or they're going to just be yapping the entire time. It's, oh.
Yeah. So I know you had something to say. I don't want to cut you off.
No. It's fine. I was just going to say, so in regards to that approach of saying like, hey, I'm going to show you some of these things. If you're interested in it, I'll tell you more about it. But the main focus is going to be my issues and my problems that are presented to me as this obstacle as I'm going through this world that I'm in, right?
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, by the way, did I forget to tell you that my group of people were oppressed? Like, we were really oppressed. Like, really, really oppressed. Like, it was bad. Don't forget that we were oppressed.
And the white man.
Yeah.
Every time.
Right. Because at the end of the day, we all, most reasonable people know about this, right? But you have to, like you said, you have to go about it in a way that entices the player or entices the person to want to find out more themselves. Because, like, for example, I think one of the better games when it comes to, I guess, if you're talking about like trans identity, things like that, Celeste. Celeste is a platformer game that emphasizes, quick reflexes, focusing on like wall jumping, like very akin to like, those 2D side scrollers that you keep on hating on me about, which is fine, it's whatever. But
when did I ever hate on you? 2D side scrollers.
So basically, so this story is about this, this trans girl, and you don't know about it until like the very end. But at the same time, you also see her struggling with this this alter ego version of herself, which sort of kind of goes into say like, hey, what is this saying about like, trans identity? Like, how do people like struggle with this condition and things like that? Or you can just completely avert your eyes to it and just play the game just like that, and you'll be fine as well. But it also presents it as an additional thing if you're curious about that particular stuff, right?
That's fascinating, and it's such a sensitive subject that I don't ever want to, I'd say, diminish or be disrespectful to anybody's like real struggle.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's not something I deal with, and I never want to, because it seems like that would really be a tough thing to go through.
Yeah.
That said, to have a game that can tell a story in that kind of way, where it's like, oh, this character has like an alter ego, and it's something that they're dealing with, and then at the end, he's like, oh, okay, so they're actually dealing with something a little bit more, and it's not so like in your face that it's like, bro, like I heard you the first time, so what? You have something going on. I don't care anymore. It's
Right.
so in my face. It's annoying now. Don't be annoying.
Yeah, don't be annoying.
You
about
made
it.
it your personality.
It's your
and that-
personality.
It's not,
Golly.
and then it's like it's that thing where it's just like at this point I could just Google it. At this point I could just Google it. Yeah,
Dude, we've got to. Well, it may end up being its own video, but we've got to take a few minutes to talk about Sparking Zero. Hard transition, hard pivot, hard cut. Sparking Zero, bro. You're my Sparking Zero guy. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Did you play that one? You had 2?
we had Budokai Tenkaichi, Budokai the whole shebang.
Yeah.
I even played the terrible ones like Saga. Like we've people did not like Saga at all.
Dude, has it been 10 years since the last good one? I think, what was the last game that they made that people were like, was it Xenoverse?
Xenoverse was the last like 3D battle arena area that we had. We had Fighter Z, which is the 2D fighter.
Right,
But
right.
like Xenoverse 2 was like the last like 3D arena style kind of fighting.
People say that game walked so Sparking Zero can run. Are they lying or are they telling the absolute truth?
I wouldn't say that Xenoverse did that. I would say that Xenoverse held us on for a long time for this game to come out. It was the thing that was keeping a lot of Dragon Ball Z gamers locked in place. Because don't get me wrong, if you love Fighter Z, guys, you love Fighter Z, but Xenoverse was kind of keeping everybody together at that point. So getting into Sparking Zeros, I've played it, I've dabbled with it, I've touched it. That's kind of weird. Pause. But overall, I would say this game is actually really fun. It really kind of like, as I'm playing it, I'm getting like that almost that like little like hints of nostalgia feeling from playing like Budokai 3 or Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Like you're getting that little feeling. They got a ton of characters for you to choose from, and it's not like, oh, I have to pull out the old credit card to buy, a couple extra characters, with the exception of the pre-ordering, right? Which that's just, you're buying the game anyways. No matter if you buy the regular edition or the ultimate edition, they give you a couple extra characters because they're like, thank you for pre-ordering the game. Other than that, I'm not pulling out my wallet to buy any more extra characters because they were just like, here is literally everything here so far. And it's a lot of characters. So you have a lot of variety. The difficulty, now, if you're an old head like me, you understand how difficulty in Dragon Ball Z games work back then, right? Some characters are going to be more busted than others. Some characters are going to have abilities that are going to wipe out half a health bar, right? It's going to happen. For the new young whippersnappers that haven't understood those kinds of games, they're like, we need to nerf this person, we need to nerf that person.
No,
we're not doing that. We not have that. We not have that. You kind of are going to have to just learn that some characters are going to mollywop other characters. It is what it is. But I've been having a really great time with this game overall.
Yeah. I don't think Dragon Ball Z has ever represented what they call balance in gaming. And I don't think it should.
No, definitely
No.
not.
I mean, okay. If you're trying to bring balance into the whole thing, you have to remember that Dragon Ball Z itself started the whole problems of just power scaling and balance issues up the wazoo. Like just from the very get-go, when Raditz first showed up and they started talking about like, oh, this farmer has a power level of 5 or 1 or whatever. Like, Kakarot, you're so pitifully low. Who is this green Namek with you? Like they start off talking about power levels, and later on you find yourself in the Frieza song and they're talking about like, oh, Frieza, he has a power level of like what, like 150,000 or something ridiculous. I don't remember the exact numbers.
I think his base, his base form was like in the 500,000.
Yeah, something high like that, right? And then his evolved, like his second form was like 1 million, right?
We missed the opportunity to go back and say, taking off the reader.
rose tinted
It's over
glasses.
9,000.
What? But the point is, like, Dragon Ball's always been known for its insane power scaling and just its insane like power levels and heights of power to be achieved, because the story is all about Goku and his path to power. And like sort of like what he's doing to constantly improve upon himself and make himself for the better. Because whatever threats that he faces, they're constantly going to be stronger and stronger, and he has to, live up to that challenge and surpass that.
Or die.
Or die.
Or die trying,
And if he
yeah.
does die trying, he at least has a plan to, foster whatever next generation or, next person to try to step into and handle that issue.
Now, I love where we're going with this. How does this game actually handle broken characters like the
giant
ultimate
characters.
version of Goku versus Krillin and other characters? If you pick Goku, how is that? How does that work?
So let's say for instance, like example, like if I pick Goku and I have like Krillin, like Goku is gonna mollywop. He's gonna hit harder. He's gonna move faster. All those kinds of like attacks. Like his Kamehameha is gonna hit a lot harder. It's gonna take a lot more. Krillin's gonna take a lot more damage, right? It's not impossible for Krillin to win though, because it's like, okay, at that point are my reflexes faster on the controller? Do I have better skills? At that point, it comes into that skill issue where, like, if I have an inexperienced Goku player going against a very experienced Krillin player, that Krillin player is going to be up on an uphill battle, but it's definitely possible for them to win.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
Now, you can play in teams in this game. Or is it always teams, or is it just sometimes teams?
So you can make it into like teams. I think it's like a team of like 4 or 5, I believe.
I believe it's 5, up to 5.
Up to 5
Because
characters.
I think
that
you can use
have.
like the Genshin Force or whatever.
You can use like the Ginyu Force and
Excuse me.
but yeah, it goes up to 5 people pretty much, character wise, that you can just select any random whatever. And let's say for instance one of your characters gets knocked out of health, you got another guy that comes in again, whatever, and you can also like switch them out also.
Can I pick all the most powerful players in the game?
Sure.
Okay, because I was told, this is maybe misinformation on my side, that if you pick the most powerful player in the game, you're gonna kind of run out of the ability to pick other players. Or can you just stack a whole team?
Now you can just stack a whole team. So if I want to play like Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Great Ape Vegeta, which the Great Ape fight it's hard, but it's not impossible. And I've been seeing a lot of controversy that this fight is almost impossible. And then you got the other side saying, well, if you don't beat this guy and you lower the difficulty, then you're terrible. You should just uninstall the game. Don't uninstall the game. Get good. So... But yeah, you can stack a whole broken team if you want to. Now, I think it's more taboo if you do that, especially if you do the online play, because some people.
I gotta ask a question.
Yeah,
So the difference between is there like a casual online versus a ranked mode?
I think right now they just have like a casual online.
Okay.
I think they'll add ranked mode, or I think if anything they have a tournament mode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys know about like the tournament modes in Dragon Ball Z, the old Budokai Tenkaichi games, literally you could have a few people that you have, and you can kind of just have this tournament, and eventually whoever beats each other in the tournament, I guess the tournament goes, they become the winner. But now they have that mode online, so you can have this online tournament mode,
Okay.
and you can just fight your way up, and it's kind of pretty dope. You fight a bunch of people online.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's pretty cool in my opinion. I'm not gonna lie. There is a couple issues that we do have with Sparking Zeros, which I hope that they'll fix. One of them is, so sometimes there's a little bit of like input delay.
Oh,
So-
input delay. Ooh,
Input
that's not
delay
good.
for a fighting game?
I know, crazy. It's just like sometimes like I'll be like fighting, right? And I'll be like, okay, I'm punching and I want to do my special attack, right? And I'm like, all right, so I have the button held down, and the indicator for all my moves are there, right? And I'm pressing the circle button because I want to do my ultimate attack, right? Or I'm pressing the triangle button because I want to do like my meteor crash or whatever, and I'm pressing it. And rather than me having the attack go through, instead I'm shooting my key blasts out. Because triangle is also key blast for if you're on PlayStation, right? And so I'm like, no, I'm pressing this and I keep tapping it, but it's like it just doesn't register sometimes.
Interesting.
So that's one of the downsides. I would say the other downside to Sparking Zeros, which I think they'll hopefully rectify, is there is no crossplay.
That made me so mad because I was going to get it on Xbox. I haven't bought it yet. But I was like, oh, my Xbox collection is a little bit more complete than my PlayStation. I'll get it on Xbox. And then they were like, no. Like, well, I guess I got to get it on PlayStation.
Yeah, so I will tell you this right now, right? If you want to play with the boys, right, you all need to like come to a consensus and say we're getting it for this specific console or we're getting it for PC. But make sure you all get it so that way you can fight each other and talk smack to each other. So, food for thought on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
There was one thing about Sparking Zeros that sort of overshadowed a different thing going on. So I don't know if y'all have been tracking, but Dragon Ball Daima, the new Dragon Ball animation brought to you by the late Akira Toriyama, has dropped. First episode.
Was it a movie or
It's
season?
a TV series.
It's a show.
So it's a show. So the first episode dropped, and let me tell you, it looks fantabulous. Like Toei, I don't know who they decided to sacrifice in order to make sure it looks like this, but whoever they did, they need to continue sacrificing them, okay?
Studio Mappa is gonna have them in their sights.
Hey, listen, keep Mappa away from him, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. That being said, like I really do hope that they lock in and continue to drop the same quality because they said, hey, we're taking the time to deliver this animation quality and it looks really good. Now, I will tell people, this one, the exact timeline's a little bit whack, but essentially think of it as the end of Z. And instead of going directly into Super, it takes an alternative path where the Demon Realm, essentially, they see that their king, Dabura, has been slain by Boo and the rest of the gang. And then later on, Boo also got slain by Goku and his squad, right? So now they're freaking out and they're like, man, we got to do something about these Z fighters. Otherwise, they're going to be a problem. They're going to eventually pull up on our block and, run the fate. And we don't want that, right? So they get the idea, hey, what if we use those magical orbs called the Dragon Balls? Hence, Dragon Ball, right? Mm-hmm. So they go over to planet Earth and they use the Dragon Balls to essentially turn all the Z fighters into children, like make them young. Now, I know what you're saying. It's just the same old song and dance of GT again. Like, oh, we're going back to the original Dragon Ball, making them kids again. Yes, however, let them cook, all right? Because GT walked so Daima could run, all right? That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, guess we got to tap in with it, give it a few episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many episodes until it gets good?
Okay. Here's the thing. Most people say 3 episodes. Because I'm a Dragon Ball fan, I'll give it 6 episodes. If it falls off by the 6th episode, then we're going to have some issues. I'll continue watching it, but at that point, it's going to be hate watching.
No, don't hate watch.
You hate watch and they get a
season.
second season.
Hey, listen. At the end of the day, you know me. I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I enjoy Dragon Ball. That being said, Heroes can go somewhere else. Okay, I will say this. I like some of the characters in Heroes, but Heroes to me is what I believe most people think Dragon Ball is, which is like, oh, guys charge up, they get super strong, and they start beating the smack at each other with 0 stories, 0 character development, 0 nothing.
Heroes is just fan service.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
us to get the crazy things that don't happen in the actual anime, where we're like, hey, why can't Trunks go Super Saiyan God? Well, he will in Heroes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Heroes is perfect for that. That being said, I sincerely hope that, people don't continue to have that silly notion of that's all the Dragon Ball is about. Because if you think that's all the Dragon Ball is about, I highly implore you, go watch or even read the Dragon Ball manga and tell me that again. Because some of you, I know some of you have a little trouble reading, and that's okay. Don't worry. We'll walk you through that.
It's the hot take machine.
Cash
money.
I know some of you had trouble watching as well. That's okay. We'll walk through with that. There's tons of great creators out there who go over this content too. Like, especially if you're having trouble trying to understand some of the deeper concepts of Dragon Ball, because I know some of you probably think, oh, Dragon Ball is not that deep. Well, guess what? It was based off of the Journey to the West. And of course, naturally, if you have anything that's based off Journey to the West, it's going to have some deep mythology or some kind of
depth.
it's going to have some depth to it, right?
Journey to the West is a big read. Like you're gonna be sitting there doing a big read.
So. Oh, absolutely. That being said, even though Dragon Ball is simplistic, I will give you that. It's very simple. That doesn't mean that it's not going to have any depth whatsoever. It just means that you have to pay more attention versus just seeing it being presented to you. Mm-hmm. I think, for example, Attack on Titan is a good example of a show that readily presents its complexity to you as it goes on. But Dragon Ball it's a more relaxed version of that in the sense of hey, we're going to reserve some of the complexity stuff, and we're just going to tell you things that in a very simple manner, but you have to be paying attention, because if you're not paying attention, guess what? You're not going to understand why in the world did Goku give Cell a senzu bean. You're going to just think that, oh, that's a character assassination. Why would he do that? That's stupid, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's some of the problem that we have with a lot of people. Like what you were just saying, A lot of people, they're watching stuff, they're playing games, they're
Oh, right.
watching series, shows.
Like, for example, people think that Goku's a terrible dad because they all seen just Dragon Ball Bridge, which, Team 4-Star, they're an amazing team, and they clearly love Dragon Ball enough to get a lot of people on board and to, like, constantly...
They even admitted that was one of their biggest mistakes is making Goku look like a terrible dad.
Is he a perfect father? No.
He's a perfect father to a certain degree.
To a certain degree, right. But
I mean, what's a perfect father? As the father in the room, what's a perfect father?
what is a perfect father?
coming back from getting the milk.
Yeah.
Stop. I think it's if you are the type of guy to die so that your son can kind of have a chance, like you did something right. Now it's complicated because Goku is kind of the himbo character of the series.
Yes,
with
absolutely.
the biggest heart.
Yeah.
He's a little bit slow sometimes. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, he takes certain things for granted at times.
Right.
But his heart's always in the right place.
Right. And if someone were to be like, hey, like Chi-Chi gets on him all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's really trying to just ignore her. He's trying to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient for him. He's trying to do the right
think
thing.
Goku might have autism. And I don't even mean that like as a joke.
Or like as a diss.
Or as like a diss. I think he just actually has autism. He just like he's got like his Saiyan biology and then he has autism. And it just went like that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who operate not necessarily on an autistic level, because I think there's a lot of people claiming autism who don't have it, but they operate not on like a high, like ultra intellectual level. And a lot of things come to them and they're what you would call like a plain person. Say it to me plain. And if it's not plain, it's gonna go over their head. And they work really, really well in the things that they're good at. And they try to stay away from the things that they're not good at. Goku's kind of one of those guys where you should not ask him to work a desk job. He will lose his mind.
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to split his desk in half, and not because he's angry, but because something weird happened. And people are going to fire him because they think he's mad. And
that's what I want to see now. I want to see like The Office, but it's Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, I'll give you this. If there's one thing that Dragon Ball has always delivered on, it's filler episodes. And
so much filler.
dude, okay. So,
are we gonna talk about it? Well, you know what? We're short on time, but Goku getting his driver's license is one of the best filler episodes ever.
yeah, exactly. So now I really want to just see an episode where like Goku, Vegeta, Trunks and the gang. I know Gohan's gonna be perfectly fine, but he's gonna be
Vegeta
freaking
on vacation.
Dude.
Wait, they already did that.
Yeah, they did that already. But like, I know Gohan's gonna be the one freaking out. He's like, dude, like my dad's here, and the rest of these Saiyans are here. For some reason, like they are just not holding up well at all. Piccolo surprisingly is doing okay, but then now because they're causing all the problems, Piccolo's freaking out too.
It's gonna be it's gonna be like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But with just a lot more, explosions.
So
yeah, give me
anyways, I
that.
started
Give me that.
blasting. So let's transition to the last part of our show. Watch, play, listen. What are you watching? What are you playing? What are you listening to? You don't have to say all, but is there something that you want to share with the people?
So who's gonna go first?
You.
Me?
Looking
All right.
at you.
So lately I've been catching up. I did say I was catching up on Bleach, and I'm finally reached the 1,000-year blood war. And let me tell you, like reading it and then starting to watch it. Oh, it's good. It's good. I love it. It makes me so happy. Like it feels good to be a Bleach fan now than it probably did back then. Because I mean, like the issue was you guys were essentially waiting for a long time to get a really, really good adaptation. On top of that, you probably also went through like the lows and then the highs. But I get to have the best of all worlds, and I think it's amazing to be a Bleach fan now. So if you're waiting to pick up Bleach, especially if you came from something like, I don't know, JJK or whatever, highly recommend going and reading Bleach, because Bleach essentially inspired a lot of the elements that you see in JJK. Same with Hunter x Hunter, because Hunter x Hunter just came back with the manga, and let me tell you, it's pretty good. That being said, so I'm watching and reading that. I'm also watching that Dan as well. Episode 2 dropped. This show is so weird and so wacky, but I'm on board for it. I'm just here to see where it goes. It's genuinely entertaining, like despite it being like so just goofy. I like it. I enjoy it.
Fair.
Yeah, because I mean,
Are you playing anything good?
am I playing anything good? Okay, so
Anything that stands out?
Okay, well. I just finished Astrobot. Like I completed it. I went through and I 100%ed
100% of the whole
every
game.
single planet, like every single world they had going on. I got to the final. Yeah, hey, listen, man, I really enjoyed it. Okay,
I like it.
And okay, see, I'm not really an emotional guy, but they kind of had me in the
First
last.
of all, you're lying.
Okay, I lied. I am an emotional person. So, towards the end, Astrobot, he has this whole massive battle with this alien dude, and he has all of his buddies helping him, and you see all the different generations of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 3. It's good. It's great. I love it. And you finally have Astrobot. He's facing off against the villain, and he succeeds, but then it's bittersweet because he gets like grabbed at the last second, and the rest of his bots, they all get together and they're trying to pull him back, but he's like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. He lets go, and he goes to the portal with this dude, and a huge explosion happens, and then he comes back, but he dies essentially, and I'm like, oh my heart, no,
Not the little bot.
yeah, not the little, but I genuinely felt sad. I was like, bro, bring him back. You do something. So they have you bring him back, and then he starts doing his little dance, and he's all happy, and I'm like, dude, I love this game. This game, it definitely tickled my like that feeling of being a little kid again. I love that. I love feeling like I'm a little kid again, where I don't have any worries.
I can see the moisture in your eye. You're feeling this.
Hey, dude, no, honestly, I genuinely love that game, and I need Team Asobi to continue to drop bangers like that. Please, Sony, for the love, that's all that is good. Do not let that team go under.
Let them boys cook.
Let them cook.
And bring back Bloodborne.
Bring back Bloodborne. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been consuming as of late.
Nice. All right. Well, that was a lot. How do you follow up on that?
I can't. I mean, I'm gonna say you're gonna follow up. I'm gonna be simple. Abbott Elementary. That's been my go-to.
Hey,
Amen.
okay.
I've been doing that. The new season just came out. I'm waiting for the Always Sunny in Philadelphia crossover.
Oh, I heard about that.
I don't know how that's gonna happen, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. I'm all for it. Are you playing anything good or?
Playing wise, I mean, Sparking Zero is what I've been kind of investing my time into.
Yeah, but before Sparking Zero came out, were you playing anything, or were you just working? Or
I mean, just mostly working, but I've been doing a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 5. I actually restarted it.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was like, I want to get back into this.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I apologize if I influenced you in any way. Yeah. So just to wrap up. I've been watching. I watched Abbott. That was dope. I really enjoyed that. Also watched. Started rewatching Lord of the Rings.
Ooh.
Took 3 sittings because it's late at night. My wife's got to wake up early, so we took us 3 sittings to finish the first one and then start the second one, 2 Towers. And let me tell you, it's just as good as you remember. There's almost no points in the first movie that I'm just like doesn't hold up. Stuff. Because a lot of the stuff they do was practical, and a lot of the CG stuff is like, it was early. And even though it was early, they were killing it. So
didn't somebody parry an arrow in the Lord of the Rings movie?
Was it an arrow? Or I think it was a knife. So Aragorn, his actor, his name is eluding me right now, but one of the orcs threw a knife at him, and he literally parried it. He wasn't supposed to actually throw it. He was supposed to throw it somewhere else. And it may have saved his life that he was actually able to parry that knife. That said, it's a great watch. Go back and watch it again. And the only reason why I'm watching it again is because we went and watched The Rings of Power Season 1 and 2, which people are like, oh, that's trash. It's not true to Tolkien. Doesn't matter. It's getting people into the serious stuff, Lord of the Rings, and even going back and watching The Hobbit, which is objectively worse than the original series. But that's how I feel. Been playing a lot of Metal Gear Solid V. Have been obsessing over it. I probably talked to your ear off the other day talking about it.
Oh yeah, you definitely did.
Which is, I have no remorse.
And your local gearhead hasn't heard anything.
I was going to talk to you about it.
He has controversial opinions. I will say that.
Kojima is a maniac. The story is all over the place. I love this game. It's a little bit too extra sometimes. How do we go from a really solid, grounded military experience to this character can read your memory card?
Yes.
What?
Bro. I know they'll probably never do it, but if they ever bring Twin Snakes, which is the GameCube the GameCube remake from Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
Tell me why Mans did a backflip right in the air, then hopped on a missile mid backflip, and then shot a helicopter out of the sky. or does another backflip, kick flips a sniper rifle, and then 360 hard scopes a sniper, another sniper.
So it's weird because it takes these like really like hardcore like characters who are okay. These are kind of like 80s, 90s action movie characters to an extent, but they're kind of grounded. And then they do things that are not grounded at all, like that. Or some of the names are just like out there and just like
Solid Steak.
I mean, that is what it is.
Fat Man.
Yes.
Revolver Ocelot.
Revolver Ocelot.
It's like, bro, like what are we doing? And then when we go to V, and it's like, okay, so, and I don't want to spoil anything, but so if you haven't played V or know the story of V, like just go ahead and turn it off now. Thanks for watching the podcast. Appreciate you. So this is.
Oh, they gotta skip my section about Astrobot then.
I guess too late. But it's like, okay, so you're the body double, but is Big Boss even that you see there even the real guy, or are you playing as Chico and the other guy is actually the medic? Because there's some little stuff that if you really pay attention, it's like,
So
it's too much. It's too much.
Oh my gosh,
it's too much.
I could.
It's too much.
It's a lot. I'll say this, right?
And it's a retcon.
Body double, right?
Yeah.
Is the body double is the one you fight in the old school Metal Gear
MGS. MG.
Or just MG. He's the body double that you fight in the first one.
Right.
So that way in MG2, you're like, didn't I kill you? And he's just like, no.
And my question is, so you were training under him. He was your leader. Did you learn under the original Big Boss, or were you learning under Venom?
So you learned under the original Big Boss, right?
Okay.
But it's just that Big Boss was never actually in Zanzibar the entire time. Was it Zanzibar or Outer Heaven? I was Outer Heaven.
Outer Heaven,
Big Boss was never in Outer Heaven. Original Big Boss. Venom was there. And so he's like, well, I'm going to fight you now. And you're like, oh, this is Big Boss. This is Big Boss, you know?
Right.
That's what you think. And it turns out it's not. He was the body double the entire time.
It's overly complicated. It's the best game. It's one of the best games I ever played. 5. And even people poop on Peace Walker. I enjoyed Peace Walker because it kind of like, I think Peace Walker walked through this game could run. You know?
Facts.
And just all the systems that kind of led into it, right? And I love the story in Peace Walker, although people say it's like boring, but whatever. I enjoyed it. But then we have just the amount of lunacy, and it's like, okay, so Ocelot is in this game too, and he's like the guy you want to be around. Like he's a guy that I want to hang out with.
He's the bro.
Yeah, he's a homie.
You know, he's like training your dog for you and everything, and then turns out he's like super evil. And then at the end of 4, which is like chronologically the end, he's always knowing. Like he's known since the beginning.
4 is when you find out Ocelot was like, yeah, so I've been trying to fight the Patriots for like forever. And I did a lot of things that I did not want to do. So like when you think, oh yeah, he was possessed by liquid. No, he just hypnotized himself to think he was liquid.
This game has got so many Japanese sensibilities, and it's counter to my American storytelling.
Oh, bro, what you mean? The amount of American... Bro, right? When I think about it, I will sometimes look at like, and I'm not even trying to get political here, but like I will look at sometimes like elections and stuff, and like people who win the elections, whether it's Trump, Biden, Kamala, whatever it is, right? And I think to myself, I would not be surprised if the Patriots were a real thing and they were just like, I'm going to just make whoever win is whoever wins.
Well, I mean, if we talk about like MGS2, like, because we're going crazy right now, we got to end it. But like the AI commanding you in MGS2, if you haven't played it, sorry, another spoiler. But like the whole thing is insane. And it really, Kojima was ahead of his time in so many things, and people loved it. But there's some storytelling things that he did that just have me like rolling my eyes and just like, oh my gosh, bro, make it simple.
Can't
Make
do
it
that.
simple.
It's a Metal Gear game.
Yeah, we now have that.
Right. Anyways, guys, you guys probably hate me if you're big Metal Gear fans. This was really fun. I know we talked about a lot of things. Hopefully you come back for the next episode. And if you have any suggestions, leave a comment. We like your comments. Somebody was like, add stuff to the table. We added a few things. Unfortunately, some of it doesn't work with our green screen effect. Yes, this is a green screen. If you're watching on podcast, we do use a green screen for the YouTube video side. If you want to go watch some of the clips, they are on YouTube. If you are not watching on podcast and you're on YouTube or somewhere else, make sure you tell your friends that we're available on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different things.
The works.
Guys, let's do a quick sign out. Let people know what to do next. Cash, hit him.
All right, it's your boy Cash, back at it again, signing out.
He's out.
It's your boy Crusader. Make sure you drink lots of water. Stay healthy and hydrated.
Stay healthy and hydrated. And this is your boy, Atlas. Thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This has been a lot of fun. Drop suggestions for the next episode because we're constantly thinking, hey, what should we talk about? What should we do? And we're listening to you because, we make content so you guys can enjoy it. All right, guys. Peace.